secretary doing the minute speech. Today, like, there's two of us, and that is unusual. But it's
no, sorry. Yeah, we're doing great. So there's the two of us, and our other half, Zoya, is taking the minutes for this debate.
The motion of the debate is, of course, this House believes Gen Z is cooked. I know. Looking at the lineup, it is easy to believe, but please keep an open mind before the statement. Violence. And I know, like you saw that gun violence, and it's easy to believe that three of our speakers today are not privately educated. This interactive debate, you might be able to smell who they are.
Brendan didn't understand that it's actually the Forceback's job to introduce the speakers, so we're going to do that now, sort of, but funnier. So we have Michael O'Brien, who is here to stand with his hands in his pockets, deliver 3 dry jokes, and look good doing it. And then over there we have Eoghan O'Brien, who's studying pure law, so he's actually not fully cooked, he's still mushy in the middle.
Alright, so Maia, an inspiration to us all. She's a PPS student in Trinity, of course. Despite her humble beginnings, rough inner city school, but she never forgot where she came from. She still has a prefect pin from Loretta.
We have Aoife McLaughlin, who studies English, and she's in 2 different book clubs. That's it. That's not true.
Niamh, who's been debating her entire life. Actually, her first words were actually POI. We've got Prachi, who's a climate activist, a TED Talk alumnus, a debating virtuoso, a bastion of hope in our uncertain world. Donal is really stupid. If he gave you food for thought, you would still be hungry.
The question before this House this evening is, this House believes Gen Z is cooked, and I should now call upon the first speaker to pose the motion to the House. Sorry. Yeah. Cool.
Brendan clearly not understanding what RepSec is supposed to do. We're supposed to introduce the speakers, but I'm not supposed to make fun of children. So, for the proposition on this motion, first speaker is Zoya Shahid, a first-year best student, who before this debate was going around describing herself as an office siren for the achievement of wearing a blue shirt. Second speaker for the proposition, this made winner this year, guys, if you hadn't heard. Maia Nowlan, a first-year PPS student, who is too afraid to admit in his politics tutorials that he voted for Fine Gael, even though everyone can tell. Third speaker of the proposition is Eoghan O'Brien, first-year law student, who, even at this stage in the year, still thinks he's special because he has a mullet and an ear piercing. And finally, closing the case for this side of the house is Niamh Bugler, a first-year law and politics student who is half American.
First up, Donal Walsh. So with a skill set suited to all segments of the economy, as a maths, philosophy student, with the talent for carpentry, doesn't let the precarious job market facing Gen Z get him down. Anyone who says Gen Z can't navigate the increasing geopolitical tensions of the world has never met our second speaker, Maia Nowlan, who's going to New York next week to attend a Model United Nations conference. And yeah, that's a true fact, by the way. Speaking of true facts, our third speaker, history student Aoife McLaughlin, claims to have never used ChatGPT. so nothing else. At least we have one person to hold accountable the AI billionaires writing history. Moving on to our final speaker, Prachi Agrawal. She defies the narrative that declining attention spans are a problem. Because with an average espresso shot consumption, averaging quadruple digits, as she tells me, she claims to be able to do everything in half the time for ancestors anyways.
The question before the House this evening is, this House believes Gen Z is cooked, and I should now like to call upon the first speaker to oppose the motion.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, adjudicators, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zoya, and I am honored to open up the debate tonight for side proposition. This week, freshers took over the list and came up with a very profound, philosophical, and thought-provoking motion. Today, we argue over one of the most contested, controversial, and downright existential questions of our time. Is Gen Z cooked? But first, not Instagram Reels. It's worse actually from YouTube Shorts. So I found the term from 6 months late, but to get a proper definition from a very reliable source, user 11086942 on TikTok, who said to be cooked means to be in deep trouble, or to be in hot soup, or simply to be screwed. This house does indeed believe that Gen Z is screwed, and today I will explain why. But first, I'd like to recite a poem written by yours truly. Trigger warning. Perhaps our generation was fated to fail. All odds against us, the coffin and the nail. From 95 to 2012, our fates worsen, they dry, crimp, and they fail. From COVID to college, our fates prevail because our brains can't tell the difference between getting kidnapped and sending a simple email. Gen Z is cooked, Gen Z is doomed. We can do some girl math and find the hours of content consumed. But the math is not mathing, the math only shows us our collective wound. The wound of hours wasted viewing or crashing out. The wound of negative aura, of being a big bang, or the wound of collective burnout. Everything nowadays is a pollutant, a poison, or carcinogenic. You can blame the generations before us or even the pandemic. But Gen Z is cooked, Gen Z is decrepit. It's written in our stars, woven into our genetics. You can accept your fate, wait for your day, or you can go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like, I'm 6'2", by the way. It doesn't matter if you've already held space with the facts or raised your ya to the max. Gen Z is cooked, Gen Z is doomed. It's time that we pay our common tax. You can lie to yourself all you want and pretend that you're fine, but the truth is Gen Z is cooked because we are all so down chronically online. Our screen time is something worth worrying about. Our attention spans are disappearing, and where technology once was an escape from the real world, now the roles are reversed, and the real world is the only escape from the never-ending doom scroll we find ourselves irrevocably enthralled with. But the most worrying issue is that our generation don't really want to change, and why would we? When we can get a rush of dopamine just at the mere mention of brain rot jokes, or a senseless 15-second AI video. But this isn't news to anyone. We know what we're doing is bad for us, and yet we can't stop. It's almost as if we have Stockholm Syndrome. And in this case, our phones are the captivator, and we are its captives. We know that the endless overconsumption of content is oppressive, and yet we are in love with the scroll anyway. I read this thing, and by read, yes, I do mean I saw YouTube Short. It said that this generation doesn't feel bored anymore. They feel anxious, because we are constantly overstimulated, and the feeling of no distraction is literally alien to us, to the point where we don't know what to do with ourselves. Yes, we are so cooked, but it's important to remember that it's not actually our fault. We're simply failing in a system that was designed for us to fail. It has been designed to keep us addicted, to keep us yearning for more, to keep us distracted, all so that we don't think about the perils that lie in the future. Examples of such perils include house prices, global politics, the rise of the far right, the increase in homelessness, and of course, the rising trend of alpha males hosting podcasts. This generation might be living in their childhood homes until they're pushing 30, because renting in Dublin or London costs nearly as much as New York, except the only comfortable you're living in is crumbling. This generation was born into an uneven playing field, where our grandparents bought houses for the price of a literal vape. There is possibilities that we won't even get a mortgage. Everything is harder for us. Even things that once made our lives easier will soon be our downfall. AI will take our jobs. Not yours, by the way. And a relaxing holiday in the south that will be unbearable thanks to climate change. This generation will have doctors who ChatGPT their way through medical school. Imagine lying on the operating table and you hear your doctor whisper, "Chat, explain to me how to remove an appendix." 5 years old. I'll actually just walk right down there. Because it is so over for us. We are so doomed. But in a way, we're simultaneously thriving in this environment that we've been forced to cultivate. We may be cooked, but as they say, we're here for a short time. No, we're here for a good time, not a long time. So ladies and gentlemen, don't be delulu. Wake up and side with the proposition. Thank you.
misgendered and called stupid in the last. I will still stand in opposition. Because the proposition and this motion are arguing that the people of Generation Z are entirely cooked, that we are beyond saving. However, I think that's just being entirely unfair to our generation. We aren't actually that bad in the end of the day. Every generation has had to deal with older generations and old age pensioners going, these pesky kids, ruining the world. It's one of the few constants of life, up there with death and taxes. It's one of the few things I actually look forward to in old age, is complaining about the next generation coming up. That seems like a great deal, just sitting back in some retirement home, complaining. But why are proposition now siding with the old age pensioners? What is going on? Do they think that because we're chronically online and chronically depressed, or because we found incredibly innovative ways of becoming addicted to nicotine, we are beyond saving? I disagree. I think these are just coping mechanisms. Because as our proposition side has said, no generation alive has gone through so much trauma in such a short amount of time. If we take Gen Z as being anyone born between 1995 and 2012, then members of our generation have witnessed 9/11, the Iraq War, a global financial crisis, the refugee crisis, COVID-19, the largest land war in Europe since World War II, the highest inflation rate since the 80s, the most rapid change in the global order since World War II, and the rise of the internet, general environmental collapse, and the dawn of AI, all before you turn 30. And then yes, you have to deal with buying a house and raising a family and all the usual crap you do. The last generation to go through this were probably the generation that actually fought in World War II. So life is hard. Give us a break. It's the times that are cooked and the world we live in that is cooked, not us. Are we not allowed to cope with these trying times in our own unique way? If I come back from some pad Friday only to see that Trump and Zelensky have had it out on live television, I'm not going to allowed to sit there and Instagram reels and things and everything cooked. It's a hard life we live in. Any other generation would have done exactly the same. We just happen to be misfortunate enough to live right now. And I'm sure it gets proper arguing that these cooked times lead to cooked people. And you know what, I would agree, a large amount of our generation are more cooked than previous generations. But that does not mean our entire generation is beyond saving. I'll give you a little bit of an analogy. In Ireland, recent general election, what's going on? Okay, recent general election. Yeah, that's exactly what.
And you voted in.
Yeah, you know what's that. Come on, people, all you now need to do is have Subway Surfers, it seems. Anyway, recent general election. Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and the coalition won a majority. However, that does not mean we are a country of Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and independent supporters. Far from it. There's more to us than just that. There is hope for us yet, both politically and socially. So, think about the people in your lives. I guarantee that a large number of people you know in our generation aren't actually that cooked. Now, you might say these are quite dull people, and you would be right, but they're still not cooked. They're still normal, regular people who are going to live happy lives. And I guarantee you, if you think a bit harder, which might be hard for some of you to do, then you'll be able to find someone who's at least a bit exciting, or at least a decent person, and a bit of crap, who's also not cooked. Like, look at Oren over here. He looks like a bit of a cooked giraffe. Why do you think he's quite a shitty guy? It's actually kind of nice, you know. I do have to get up on a step ladder to see eye to eye. You know, it's alright. So look at the bigger picture as well. Us in Western Europe might be a bit worse than our parents were. But look over in Eastern Europe. The people in Generation Z over in Eastern Europe are the first generation to grow up in a democracy over there in more or less forever. I think that's pretty chill. I'm not going to lie, I think that's pretty chill. And there are other things about our generation that are actually pretty good. For example, as Gen Z is becoming parents, we are the parents who are committing the least amount of child abuse. Probably disagree if they want. So even in the future, if things keep getting worse, Gen Z won't be all that bad.
Do I?
Yeah.
Do you guys know what's up?
Yeah. So yeah, even in the future, if things get a bit worse, things you're never going to be fully, entirely cooked. So long as there is one base individual, one sound lad, as it were, there will be some hope. In conclusion, Prop should stop being such negative Nancy's. They're awful dull. And honestly, I think Generation Z just have to be considered to be great crack and actually not that cooked. And for once in your lives, I would like for you to look on the bright side of life. So please oppose this motion.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to start by just conducting a little experiment. Hands up here who recognises this person. Anyone? No? Hands up here. Unfortunately, Zoya already beat me. Hands up here who recognises this person. You're all cooked. This is Edmund Burke. Into school in college every morning. You really should know who this is. You've absolutely no business knowing. Let's try again. I'd like you all to just sort of close your eyes and picture a forward mental image of the current Vice President of the United States. I'm willing to bet that a sizable chunk of you genuinely pictures Now, before I get on to my serious point, because obviously this is a very serious motion, I'd like to address the elephant in the room, the fact that we're all in black tie, because I think this was sort of like an off-bench plot. I think that they were the ones who got the auditors to say, here lads, wouldn't it be like a class idea if you all wore black tie? Because what this actually does is it creates the illusion that we're not that cooked. Rocking up in a tux makes us look like we're serious debaters who are in control of our lives. We're not. We're just as cooked as everybody else. Don't be fooled by it. Okay. I think at the heart of the problem with Gen Z, the reason why we are so cooked is our deep search for meaning, our yearning for something greater than ourselves, which I think sort of goes hand in hand with like a fear of death. That is obviously isn't something that's unique to Gen Z. All generations have this innate sense of yearning, but the difference is that previous generations were able to fill this void with religion, which we don't, obviously. Going back through history, older generations like the silent generation were obviously very religious, but they also understood why they were religious. They read the Bible, they actively engaged with their faith, and they were in touch with like the meaning behind their religiosity. The problem was that when they passed that religion on to their children, but they didn't actually do a good enough job of explaining the faith behind it. So then you get on to the Zoomers and Gen X, who were still very religious, they went to Mass and everything, but they didn't have the same spiritual connection or understanding of their faith that their parents had. So without this understanding, when it came time for them to pass down their religion to their children, the best justification they could come up with for their religious practice was that everybody does it and it's a social norm, etc. Then you get to Gen Z, and Gen Z, and to a lesser extent millennials, just didn't accept this and ended up being not religious at all. They entirely rejected it as being archaic and out of date. And this sort of coincides with the rise of new atheism and general secularization in society. Yeah.
When people were flaying their skin and shit for religious reasons.
Yeah, I will yield that they were when they were being burned alive. Flaying, I think there's a different So the problem is that we've abandoned religion, but we still have this sort of God-shaped hole in our lives. We're still yearning for this greater source of meaning in our lives, something like approximating God. The older generations were able to use religion as this neat little box that satisfied this yearning and removed their fear of death.
which then allowed them to just move on and focus on simply enjoying their lives and like raising a family or whatever they did. Gen Z still needs something to fill this hole, but isn't looking at religion because the people who gave them their religion couldn't actually justify it. But on the other hand, you've got all these like millennial new atheist nerds saying like, why would you believe in an old man in the sky? So we end up going to social media and the internet and everything, where we have access to more candidates to be our new source of meaning than ever before. We're exposed to so many different ways we can live our life, so many like obsessions that can give our life meaning, and we pick one. For example, there are those of us in Gen Z who, in an attempt to create meaning in our lives, like become paranoid gym rats. These are the people who know that there's something wrong in their lives, they know that they're missing something, that they're unhappy or whatever, and they think that going to the gym and getting them like big biceps will solve all their problems. So they lift weights and so they lift weights, but then they start to like change their diet and take something whatever, and all of a sudden they become obsessed. Their entire life revolves around this like one big desire to like enlarge themselves. I don't think this will make them sound. Then there are those who, instead of worshipping God, worship money. And I'm talking now about like the sort of hustle culture, like Andrew Tate, drop shipping genre of Gen Z, who wants to make money more than anything, but don't want to get a job because obviously that would mean that they're there in the matrix. I think this is like best exemplified by our modern day best student, who is more obsessed with networking than they are with actually learning how to run a business, because apparently your network is your net worth. I think this also ties into a growing obsession Gen Z has with like hacks and shortcuts for everything. This, combined with the availability of AI, means that we're not actually learning anything or developing in any way. An example of this, some of us had an online economics test on Monday, and I've never seen anything like the panic that went around when people realised that they couldn't copy and paste. And some people, the smarter people, got around this by taking screenshots of the questions and putting them directly into the calculator. Which means that they're putting more effort into cheating using AI than they are into actually learning about economics. And I think this is going to have serious repercussions when we actually have to go out into the world and use our degrees, which is apparently something that we have to do after this. But those are like the people who are trying to create meaning in their lives, who are trying to fill this void. The worst case scenario is when people in Gen Z just give up and distract themselves in order to avoid this looming sense of nihilism in their lives. Often this takes the form of developing addictions, whether it be like gambling, drugs, alcohol, going out on Pad Friday. I know like sweet treats in between lectures, brain rush, and I know, or like the worst of all, becoming obsessed with politics. I know that I'm basically just describing an arts block student here, and I'm sure like med students or like STEM students are equally as cooked. I just don't really talk to them, so it wouldn't. All in all, I think like we're seeing a fairly bleak future for Gen Z here. We're pumped to propose. Thank you.
His line of logic was that Gen Z are stupid and are going to pick up their physical health. I didn't try to stupid things that you do when you were younger. My mom really like shockingly quickly was like, yeah, I used to sniff glue, and I was like, okay. And then she went on to be like, yeah, permanent markers and petrol as well, and I was like, okay. Yeah, she was like kind of low-key, like a bit sad about the good old days. She was like, no, it was fun. I was like, okay. And then my dad was like, oh, I don't want to tell you, but then he was like, hey, I took a day off to go drink 20 pints over an afternoon trap in UCD. I don't know what that is. Which is only mildly concerning. And also he told me that like him and his brothers successfully managed to set his sparks on fire in their bedroom. That's really cool, right? Okay, so basically, like I was like, hey, my parents are relatively tame, which is kind of shocking because like they made me but I hopped online to see what other people thought about like, you know, what other generations did that were also like crazy as well. And so I went on to BuzzFeed because I love BuzzFeed. And this first guy said, in the 90s in my hometown, we would dump gas on rural roads around my area and light them on fire. We called them Go Marnies, and they were inspired by Back to the Future. Right? But then there was like 4 more, so I had to include them as well. Our grandfather would allow us to pick off squirrels and rats gnawing in his barn with a Ruger 22 long rifle. I presume that's a gun. I don't know. But I do have my whatever this is called, the strong arm, and this is my sling striker. They're also my brothers. Very odd at once. They also said, as 12-year-olds, kids in the early 80s, we used to get an old truck tire, sit in them, and then push each other onto the motorway. That's also kind of an unhealthy habit in Boston. We got clicked out the local summer carnival for swallowing them regurgitating live goldfish. People dressed in dark clothes beat up and basically lie on the road when a car came, and it was a game of chicken. The last person to run away was like the loser. Well, the first person to run away was the loser. So that also sounds like a fun thing that other generations did that I don't see happening that much anymore. Maybe I'm just not in my area. So overall, this person has stupid teenage boys. They've been stupid teenage boys for long before Gen Z, and maybe things are actually improving because we're understanding like so gray surfer wheels don't seem as bad as that kind of stuff. Like that seems kind of relatively tame. But his second point was that we're basically just like snowflakes who won't survive in the real world. This is a warning. My brother's kind of going through his like problematic anti-woke phase right now, and he's genuinely like, just kind of a little bit misogynistic, but it's okay, I'm working on it. But anyway, he was like, yeah, you guys won't survive in the real world. You're also like snowflake. And I was like, hey, this actually sounds like something I might hear from like my grandparents and my parents. I'm going to delve into this for a little second. It's an actual substance, right? My parents are always like, oh, you can't say anything these days. Like, you're just like into the world. It's like not in peace or whatever. And my parents are like, oh yeah, they're too politically correct to like survive in the real world. In the old days, they just dead tires and push each other in the motorway. Now, like to add something like proper, like I'm reading a book at the moment, and it's not from YouTube choice, it's like an actual real paper. And it's by this person, and she framed this whole argument as like the slippery slope argument. So like how people exaggerate slope from like please don't say slurs to like no one can say anything these days, right? But the interesting part is that like these people like when we introduce these kind of like things like don't say harmful stuff, it's like this justice oriented political correctness to seek to like protect harm against the people who are people who are like more vulnerable than others, right? Whereas there's other things that we have that we don't do or that we do that are just literally arbitrary. Like saying Mr. in front of someone, like is that going to harm them if I don't do that? Like surely if I misgender someone, that's like actually a lot worse than if I just don't say Mr. like Tom Francis. So actually I was like, no, we're not any more snowflakey than before. We're not like actually like wearing formal clothes with exaggerating gender stereotypes, we do that too. And like chivalry and things like that. They have no basis in actual moral ideas. So being a snowflake is actually just like taking all of those like random arbitrary things that we do and just moving into things that have actual reasons for restricting your speech because it's actually kind of harmful to like say mean things to people or to just like be disrespectful because I've heard that's not a cool thing to do. Okay, yeah. The final thing my brother said is that the one that's ones that came up already was that I spent too much time on my phone for company online or brain rotted. My main response to this was like the same as my first one. I spent too much time online now. It's quite weird. Like so was being a Victorian gym suit and like so was Victorian routine. Like there were other things that happened on the gender issues that were also just like kind of shit for you. And like at least these kids are having some fun while they're damaging their health. Like they're laughing at this poor cat, like John, yeah. Like they're laughing. That's giving them joy, right? Sweet additionally gave little Timmy no joy. So like okay, the harm We're rustling up some sizzling concoctions of social action with shitty ingredients left for us by previous generations. ChatGPT also told me that we are not cooked, we are marinating in the sauce of life. And my last bad joke was that I can't be cooked because I raw dogged part of this dish.
I am honored to thank that speaker for that witty, insightful, and frankly life-changing speech. I would also like to apologize for misgendering the first opposition. It was a typo. And I would also like to call upon Owen to continue.
Hello everyone. The majority of us in the room are Gen Z, except of course Brendan, my Gen Alpha Kate. So to start this discussion, I'd like to do something that's already been done actually, because I'm so cooked I can't form an original thought. But I'm doing it a little differently, so it's okay. I think that's what those in the business call an extension. So, it's very simple. I'm going to show you all a picture and you just say what you see. Oh. Mr. Beast, yes! And we all know Mr. Beast because it's Squid Game and they all stand in the circle and they win private jet. Next. Exactly! This is the face. And the Costco guys. And who's this? It's Dr. Richie Porter, Dean of Students at Trinity College. Runs every part of our student life outside of the lecture hall? No? See, this is why we are so cooked. Our collective chronic onlineness has genuinely impacted our perception and prioritization of knowledge. And to be perfectly honest with you, when I say hour, I mean hour. I spent all of this morning in the bowl and looking up important Trinity College Dublin people. And in comparison to that, off the top of my head, I wrote a list of 10 random pieces of Gen Z knowledge. Kaisnat, Lost Marys, Riz, Talking Sages, I Shall Speed, Backshot, Sexy Red, White Snapchat Streaks, Fat JD Vance. And I could go on and on. Anyone in this room probably could. I mean, could all probably go band for band with like niche online references, and it'd actually be kind of fun, but that's why we're so cooked. We have been so consumed by what we're being fed daily by the algorithms that there is no going back. You can try to claim that you're edgy and different because you deleted Instagram, or that you go on walks, so actually you do touch grass. The reality is that this generational brain rot has taken a hold of all of us. And while I detest it as much as the next person, I do put a lot of blame, and that I do put a lot of blame on us for giving the likes of Baby Gronk a platform. It's not entirely our fault. Like every generation now, we live on our phones. I really don't think the whole them kids and their damn phones argument stands anymore, when probably everyone in this room has been approached by their grandparents and hit with the I just saw this on my phone live. Technology, let's be real, is going to be the downfall of humanity. Our cooked state as a generation has a serious level of nurture behind it, but I am somewhat optimistic about humanity. I don't genuinely believe that we know more about Mr. Beast than Dr. Porter because we think Mr. Beast has a greater societal impact. A more correct characterization of Gen Z isn't a group of people who worship Mr. Beast, who wait with bated breath for the next Kais Nat stream. That's for Brendan's crowd over in Gen Z. We are a generation of people who, for too long, too many times, have seen a YouTube short and gone, my bad. To the point where the algorithm has created a constant, never-ending flow of Mr. Beast, of Kais Nat, of, I don't know, Brendan, what you watch? Sorry, floodgate of information that we consume.
Point of information.
Yes.
Is this not what people said when the printing press came out?
Buckle up, I'll get there. He said every debater isn't but I promise I will. We're being fed vast quantities of mindless, dopamine-inducing brain rot. And this is never going to change. Our monkey brains get way too much of a buzz from the little funny video and the swipe to the next funny video to ever want to change. To suggest that Gen Z is going to reject TikTok time and the corporations that provide it is like suggesting smokers are going to rise up against big tobacco because it's in their best interests. It's never going to happen. As a generation, we have spent our formative years becoming addicted to low-quality, dopamine-inducing entertainment and have allowed for the systems that perpetuate it to exist and thrive ad infinitum. Now, some of you may be thinking, all this guy's done is describe a universal problem with technology and just dress it up with some of the characters from the reels that you watched last night. And I would say that you're completely correct, but that does not make me wrong. But that's not to say that we're the only ones. So let's go through them. The silent generation. They don't speak, first of all. They don't do anything either, according to the BuzzFeed article. Then they're all dying out. Boomers. They actually had it pretty good. They did some really influential things in the 20th century. But then they all fell down the right-wing rabbit hole the minute they were given Facebook Shorts. Like, I genuinely had a boomer colleague who was convinced that Celine Dion was dead because she saw too many YouTube Shorts. So, cooked. Gen X, not too bad, but now they do spend a lot of time liking posts that say things like, when we were kids, we didn't have seatbelts and our parents smoked in the car, and we liked it. Everything Maia did was basically, and like, fair enough, I guess, but and millennials. Any mature students in the room? Any millennials? Tom Francis? Good, because they suck! Oh my god! They're the worst! And I won't go on, because the only thing more cringe than a millennial is someone giving a long-winded anti-millennial joke. But I know all of you have a picture in your head when I say millennials, and I want you to bear that in mind when I say cunt. So really, Gen Z aren't much different from the other generations, but that does not make us any less cooked. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen, for that fiction speech. And Aoife.
So as we barrel towards the end of this debate, I just want to recognize the wonderful work that the temporary R&L committee has been doing this week. You guys have breathed life into the GMB, this building so synonymous with debating and debaters that they even named the place after it. This, of course, being the Geeky Midwits building. I'm especially honored that when they were thinking about who they want to speak on this motion, they went, yes. Aoife fits wonderfully for the debate about being cooked. I hope it was on the right side. But maybe they've got a point. Because I'm in this building, day in, day out, constantly rising to the glory of our place in the debate. And guys, I'm really nervous to speak tonight. I don't want to do a comedy motion. It's not for me. I don't want to go to the local room, John Martins in the arts block, the virgins in the field. I want to cook harder than that. But how? Cooking. I know cooking. I can do cooking. Okay, cooking. Yeah. Let's look at this. So Gen Z are cooked. I forgot my A. That's okay. Let's look at that metaphor a bit closer. This is my work apron. Let's look at that metaphor a little bit more. So what makes someone cooked? We can bake them, we can broil them, we can fry them, we can toast them, we can cook them.
chef up a gorgeous little seared chicken breast in the shared kitchen. You cut into it, and fuck! Salmonella! You're not eating it. What you see isn't always the truth in terms of being cooked. So, despite what you may hear from Prop Bench, they've just talked about screens. But what you might hear at some point from Prop Bench is that we're cooked on the basis that sees, ranks, political tensions, they're all rising. But this is not, I think, why we're being labeled as cooked. I think when people talk about Gen Z being cooked specifically, that's like labeled on them personally. It's labeling something intrinsic in this specific age group. To say that Gen Z specifically is cooked is then laying responsibility on the cooked. It's designating this moral failing because we all exist in this planet. So why are we only talking about Gen Z specifically being cooked? You're blaming the produce for how it interacts with the broader kitchen in the process of cookery. The cake is not spontaneously bursting into flames in the oven. You read the temperature in Fahrenheit when it was meant to be in degrees. You have agency to operate the oven correctly, and you have agency to resist being labeled as cooked. This is a tale of all this time. Egyptian hieroglyphs were discovered from the 4th millennium BC, claiming that the day's youth were rude and impatient, and frequently inhabit taverns, and that all they did was be bisexual, eat hot chip, and that last quote was a lie. I'm never feeding the allegations, but it was from the 2019 shitpost, which was itself anti-Gen Z. If you find the original post, it's talking about how any female born after 1993 can't cook. So that was just a wonderful coincidence. So ultimately, these guys were cooked, but we can't cook. Classic women multitasking. But okay, what am I saying? My main point is ultimately we should not believe and cannot believe that we are cooked because regardless of externalities imposed upon us, like by shit that's going on, despite the externalities imposed upon us, we're not engaging in like autocopophilia. Like it's not us. We're not cooking ourselves. It's external shit, and I think we have agency to resist it. Many of the things that we claim are presently baking our souls, boiling our skins, they're out of our control, but this is not eternal. In the past couple of years that Gen Z have been coming into their own autonomy, we've seen positive cook deceleration indicators. We've seen an increased social tolerance, rising literacy and uptake of higher education, and materially, life is getting better. We are defrosting. It's far too early for Gen Z to be engaging in this kind of humorous rhetoric we're hearing from parents when we've barely been able to form our own identities as individuals and as like a collective generation. I've told you why this rhetoric rings false throughout history, and I'm telling you now that when we do internalize these sweeping narratives so sweeping they claim entire generations are ontologically fucked, we leave ourselves very little room to maneuver or escape this situation. Being cooked is a finality. It's a hopeless end and a loss of future. To degrade ourselves by buying into these ideas is to embrace this passiveness. Because when people don't believe in their own self-worth and potential for change, when they see no positive end, and that their actions do not look to the future, they don't pursue this positive change, and they accept the future assigned to them. We've heard a lot about attention spans and our need for instant gratification, but Prop Bench is unfortunately engaging in this exact same rhetoric by saying if things are not good now, we cannot make them better. Just because things are over now does not mean we cannot be so back again. We just have to make it happen. Yes, we have challenges, but you know who is way more cooked than us in terms of externalities? Gen Black Tech. If they were going around talking about, oh nay, we eat bacon, it is so finished yet. like fair enough, I'll give them that. But what we have is genuinely different to our predecessors is a level of autonomy. We have political, social, and material autonomy that our ancestors did not have. And I believe it's irresponsible to ourselves and to Generation 8, 2, or whatever comes next, to dismiss and diminish what we can then do with these tools. To finish, I think Sue Sylvester of Glee really said it best on doomerism and on debating. She said, you can't change the past, but you can let go and start your future. No matter how talentless, misshapen, ugly,
and it has taken away our ability to be mysterious and nonchalant. We should not have as much access to information about people that we're dating as we do, right? So there's no reason for you to be able to see a girl underneath my situationships Instagram post commenting, OMG, I wonder who took these photos. Or being up my photos of family vacation Cancun in 2015. Or for my ex-boyfriend stalking girls for an open ID tab to confront them at meeting. True story. And vice versa, right? Have you ever had someone referencing that was a very niche thing you posted on Instagram 2 years ago? It's kind of crazy. But upon careful surveying of my fellow Gen Zers, I've detected two main categories of people or relationships when it comes to dating. First, we have the nonchalanters, right? These people who normally watch TikTok compilations how to be an alpha male, or how harness your divine feminine energy to not only attract a partner, but be extremely corny and insufferable while doing so. So they usually make their move by liking every single one of your Instagram stories, but refuse to make eye contact with you while you stand next to them outside the path. Right, and then or they'll tell you the most amazing person you've ever met, and then they won't contact you for a week. But then they'll send you an Instagram reel about being that it's break silence. Right? So the problem with these nonchalanters is they drive everyone that they are dating to fucking insanity, and then these people make it everyone's problem. And I've been guilty of it, right? But have you ever tried to go for a nice girl with your friends, and you have one friend who just looks a little bit off, and she's kind of irritable, and you hear a sigh, and she's and you look over and you see, delivered 17 hours, active 8 minutes, and it's the best girl in mode, sitting there staring back at her, taunting her, and you know she's about to start reanalyzing that relationship for the 1000th time, and her mind is no, he let me wear his jacket when I was cold, so he's the love of my life. Girls like ruined. No one's happy. It's a shit situation for everyone. Gen Z is so cooked that we've begun to invent our own dialects to kind of cope with it, right? And to my point, I'm gonna read this text message that I received from a friend. My situation posting for the last 12 hours, but a snap was off during the day. Snaps went out by 3, which means he talked to her about his wife and snaps. He also reposted a TikTok with future playing in the background, so I stopped his following this. So I found 2 possible girls that I might have sent a hey girly text to. None of these words in the Bible. Even the existence of the word situationship implies something being deeply, deeply wrong with Gen Z. We have to redefine how to casually have sex, right? It's almost as much of a mess as our chambermaid on this exact topic was. No, guys, it was a movie. That chambermaid was a movie. Literally, we had a production and waterfall. It was crazy. Those who get it, sorry. So the lengths of the Gen Z will go sometimes to appear nonchalant is equally impressive and terrifying, right? So I knew a girl from home who was going out with this guy. They broke up. They were really sad. Remember back 1 or 2 years ago when that 16 personalities MBTI test is a big thing, right? So while they were in a relationship, she asked him what's your personality type? Take this test. And then upon breaking up, what she did was she put an INFP wants to communicate, and then she put her situation to INFJ or whatever. And I sat there in a room for mutual support while she sat down on the phone, ChatGPT open, and it worked. They got back together. It was crazy, right? So obviously it's kind of a thing that everyone in Cork knows each other, but she took knowing him to a whole new level. It was insane. So what I'm seeing is Gen Z clearly struggles with being perceived about giving a fuck about the person they're supposed to love. And if that doesn't tell me that we're cooked, I don't know what does. Gen Z's inability to get laid is so tired. I'm calling it enough of that. That can't be good for human beings, okay? But then we have the people on the rarer, other end, but more extreme of the spectrum. And it's the people who are just way too chalant. So these people justify their behavior because they think they're Noah from the Notebook. They think they're written by a woman because they post sunset photos and they park around her. So let me set the scene. Cork, 2022. I get a DM from boy on Instagram. And I'm a 15-year-old girl in an all-girls school. There's actually nothing I care less about with the guy from Fred I don't know, right? But he says I'm cute and he plays the guitar. So I'm this is great, this is amazing. About a week later he invites me to his house so he can play the guitar with me. And the day before I'm supposed to go, I'm there's actually nothing I want less than for some guy to sing what you want at me for 10 minutes and then shove his tongue down my throat for another 40. So I think it's an excuse not to go. And the response again not only includes homophobic slurs I'm not going to mention, but the highlight of it was, I don't think you're being serious. Jesus made time for his disciples, so you should make time for me. It was insane, that's a true story. And it just proved that he wasn't homophobic, he sent me a photo of him wearing eyeliner. And it was really bad eyeliner. Absolute closest thing that we have in Gen Z to healthy romantic attraction, just seeing someone in public and being they're cute and going up to them, it's basically natural in general, outside of the toxic cesspool of dating apps, has somehow turned into something even worse. Cringe. Too anxious to approach someone in person, too insufferable to keep our thoughts to ourselves, but just miserable enough to post them anonymously. And it's always the most vague, pointless thing. It's brunette girl with eyes did things that were stupid, but at least those stupid things were cool as shit. Like, tell me you wouldn't be a little bit, like, attracted and impressed if someone survived being pushed onto the highway, like, in a car. Like, they were morons, but at least they were pulling while doing so. See, like, unfortunately, like, advanced Instagram reel references don't appeal to the huzz, like, setting roads on fire. Gen Z, like all the other generations, have been fucked. We've unlocked a unique level of struggle. We're virgins like a film. So, who knows? Maybe it's just a new era of romance. Maybe going up to someone in between with a tripod and a little microphone and going, bring me out of 10. It's just a new way to find love. Maybe in the future we'll be telling our kids with a banging pickup line that their dad copy pastes to us and 6 other girls on Hinge. Who am I kidding, guys? We're cooked.
Personal for comfort. And call upon Prachi to finish.
Guys, I'm gonna be real with you all for a second. I've had like a really bad week. I've had like a really bad like crash outs every day, like depressive / manic episodes. It's kind of insane that I'm even here because life kind of sucks. Okay, it's not that bad, but where I'm going with this is that when you find yourself in a lot of existential crises over a short period of time, you start thinking about like life and the human condition a little bit. So I had an epiphany the other day, and I want you guys to hear me out because I think it's very applicable to kind of end this debate on my work. I think pain and suffering and disappointment are the only real things in the world. And I think that the most permanent and prominent part of the human experience is like the negative things. And I think it's probably also the oldest part of the human experience. Like in the Stone Age, I'm sure like people let out a little giggle every 5 months. Overall, like the vibe is like pretty drab, like sad, like survival. And like, okay, I know at this point it sounds like I've lost all hope, and I think I have a point. Yeah. My point is that all bad things we have will always exist. But I think it's up to us to make good things also exist and create like happiness and laughter and all those like sad things. So I come to you all today with like a very philosophical end to a very brain-rotted and I think like prop just came up and they showed us a bunch of funny pictures and we're like, guys, like fuck, like it's so over for us. Like I know, like boring. Like I think is that Gen Z are the only generation who know how to use free will. And we use it to make good things despite all the fucked up things that are happening in the world. And therefore, we're the most uncooked generation out there. Okay, let me explain, right? So, we're really different in the sense that we're constantly and acutely aware of all of the pain and suffering and disappointment in the world, right? Like with constant exposure to media and like the progress in like reporting, meaning that we're getting breaking news like the second things happen. Like we've been exposed to this like all our lives, right? And there's millions of ways we could have handled it. And like it's pretty depressing stuff and it's pretty sad and depressing stuff. And instead, we decided to like not spiral into like despair. We just decided to be insanely funny about it and Rob has like a problem with that for some
well. Like,